Hey friends, it's Barry. Today I wanted to go over some general Guild Wars 2 tips and tricks. So I wanted to go over parties, squads, team composition, roles, and boons. A huge part of Guild Wars 2 is the community and the team dynamics that go on as you're playing, and I think that understanding your role within these team dynamics will help you play better. Guild Wars 2, if you weren't aware, is a MMO, which involves a whole lot of other players. And you can absolutely play Guild Wars 2 like a single-player game. You can treat it like a single-player game. You can go through the majority of the story. You can do world bosses, events, and even some forced team play as a single player. You can go in and just completely ignore the other players if you really wanted to. I don't recommend that route at all. Guild Wars 2 is built in such a way that it encourages cooperation and coordination. In fact, the better coordinated you are with your team, the higher chance of success. So playing with other people in Guild Wars 2 is usually split out into parties and squads. With the way that team composition works, think of it in groups of 5. The max party size that you can have is 5, and that's typically for your fractals, your PvP modes, dungeons, and then any group higher than 5, I think, needs a commander tag to lead it. Now you can click the little mentor button and that will show people where you are on the map if you need help with something or if you're leading something if you don't have a tag to follow. But generally you can party up with pretty much anyone. The next two are both within squads. So the first you'll have your raid squads, that maxes out at 10 players. And the raid squads are good for raids and raid encounters, which were previously known as strikes. For most other content, people use just the general squad tag, which maxes out at 50. And these are the little hats that you see running around the map with different colors. They do world bosses, dynamic events, community events, guild events, convergences, or world v world. Those with the larger player count. And even in the larger squads of 50, commanders can still divide out the groups so that boons are distributed evenly. So they'll still split it out within the 5-person party. So typically you'll have 3 damage or DPS and 2 boons, with 1 boon being a heal and 1 boon being a DPS. So let's talk about damage first. Damage will come in 2 different flavors or types. You'll have your condition damage. That is anything that puts stacks on the enemy or dots that do damage over time. So that's bleeding, burning, poison, things of that nature. Power damage I like to think of as your weapon smacking the target. So you may have different skills that boost or build up one specific skill to do all your burst damage, but power damage is pretty much what you're hitting your target with your weapon. Next we'll go over boons. And the way boons work, if you're providing boons, the boons will target yourself and 4 other players. It will prioritize the players that are in your party, but if you're not in a party, it will just randomly choose the next 4 players around you. That's why the groups are built out into 5s. You'll have lots of different boons on your bar down here. You'll have Might or Aegis or Stability, and they pop up and they each have timers for how long they're active. But the 2 main boons that people primarily focus on are Alacrity and Quickness. Quickness makes your skills go off faster, so if you have especially the skills that have a little buffer bar to them where it takes time to build up, that makes your skills just in general act faster. Alacrity makes your skills cool down faster, so you can perform your skills more frequently. People usually pair these 2 boons up together as much as possible to maximize damage and rotation. So let's talk about the healer first. Healers will usually either bring quickness or alacrity, and the healers not only focus on keeping everyone alive and everyone at full health, but they also focus on boon duration, how long they can keep their quickness or alacrity up for the full group for the whole time. But they'll also focus on utilities, blocks, condition cleansing, shields, stability. If a boss is going to do an attack, it's good for the healers to know if they can block it, if they can protect their group, if they have to condition cleanse after the attack. So healers focus on all of those things over DPS. Boon DPS is kind of a wild card because it can be a combination of either boon and either damage type. So you can be a alacrity power DPS or a condition quickness DPS or some random combination of those four. Now boon DPS typically sacrifices some of their damage for boon upkeep and utilities. Those are the three main roles that you have: the full damage, a boon heal, and a boon DPS. Pretty much every profession has the skills and abilities to serve in any of these roles. But this is not the only way to support your team. Some raids specifically will have mechanics where one player needs to focus on a specific boss mechanic while everyone else does damage to the boss. So you can support your team in that way. And while most professions are focused on providing boons, there are also some professions that take boons away from the boss. So there are multiple ways to contribute to the group that you're in and lots of different roles that you can fill no matter how you play. But what I wanted to recommend to new players is first kind of figure out what role you want to fill. Do you want to focus solely on damage, or do you want to focus solely on support and healing, or do you want to do some random combination of the two? And I think it's important to pick the role that you think you will have the most enjoyment playing, because every single one of these roles has specific gear and stats that are optimized for those roles. Later on, it's easier to swap around or try out different builds and try out different roles, but if you're just starting off, it's really hard to bounce around between roles and builds without wasting a lot of money just trying to gear up. So I say pick a specific role that you want to try, that you're pretty certain that you'll want to play for a while. You can use your leveling experience to play around with each of them a little bit, because it doesn't really matter until after you hit level 80. But the sooner you decide your role, the easier it will be to gear up for that role later on. And then while you're playing that role, you can save up your resources and materials and money to put towards any other builds or roles that you want to try. But having one to start with is a good way to, I think, experience the game. So just to summarize, parties are 5-person groups, raid squads are capped at 10, all other squads max at 50 players. For team composition, you have 3 damage, 2 supports. The damage players will either bring power or condition and focus on damaging the boss or enemies, and the supports will be the healer and a DPS, one with quickness and one with alacrity. In another video, I'm going to go over the different guides that you would use to find how you can prepare these builds for these roles, but right now I just wanted to give you kind of a general overview of what you should expect when you interact with the other players and what they're expecting from you with these team dynamics. I hope this video helps while playing group content in Guild Wars 2. Remember to be kind, you're never alone, and always help. Bye.